Last episode, we left you with one hell of a cliffhanger. A struggling pop sci-fi writer named L. Ron Hubbard, yeah, that guy, didn't just run off with someone's heart. He also stole their wallet.
You mean Jack Parsons' girlfriend and his money, right? I still can't get over that one. It's like, hey, I trust you with my life's work and my partner. Cool?
Parsons thought he had a friend in Hubbard, but Hubbard thought he had, well, options. So he absconds with Sarah Northup, Parsons' girlfriend, and enough cash to start his own whatever the hell he was dreaming of.
Right, a yacht, a small army, a lifetime supply of pulp fiction paper.
Ha! Better! Because when we tracked him down, we didn't find him in some dingy apartment writing more sci-fi short stories. No, he was building a religion.
Wait, hold on. So the guy who just stole someone's girlfriend and life savings decides to become a spiritual leader. That seems ambitious.
Ambitious doesn't even cover it. This is a guy who takes Dianetics, throws in some cosmic alien overlords, and calls them Titans, invents a secret bridge to total freedom, and suddenly Hollywood celebrities are buying it.
So he basically went from sci-fi hustler to cosmic overlord with a PR team.
Yep, and now we're here, staring it down at the rabbit hole of Scientology. The religion, a cult, a billion-dollar empire, and a cosmic conspiracy all rolled into one.
And all because he couldn't resist borrowing a girlfriend and some cash. Classic.
So buckle up, listeners, because this isn't just a story about a guy running off with someone's money. It's about how one man went from pulp fiction to spiritual dictator.
And why the desert now has alien symbols carved into it that apparently guide reincarnated members.
Oh, yes, we are going there.
Let's dive in.
Alright, welcome back to Mindzilla. I'm Jess.
And I'm Luke, also known as the guy who's legally required to tell you when your life is about to get weirder than you think.
We're diving headfirst into the story of a man who went from sci-fi writer to, well, cosmic overlord with a $1 billion empire.
You mean L. Ron Hubbard, right? Because calling him a writer barely scratches the surface. This guy invented his own reality.
Oh, absolutely. Let's start with his humble beginnings. Hubbard was born in 1911 in Tilden, Nebraska. Pretty unremarkable start, your classic Midwest childhood. But then he took off, well, literally and figuratively.
He claimed to be traveling all over the world by his teens, fighting cannibals, exploring jungles, and basically living the kind of life that makes Indiana Jones look like he's on a school field trip.
But here's the thing, a lot of it was pure fabrication. And that's our theme for Act 1. Hubbard, the fabulist, he lied a lot. And some of the lies are just, well, wild.
So, let's break down the 6 most insane lies Hubbard told about himself. Because apparently, he thought reality was negotiable.
Hubbard claimed he had multiple degrees, including a doctorate in engineering.
Which, to be clear, is total nonsense. He never graduated from anything beyond high school as far as records show.
But if you're trying to sell a self-help system called Dianetics, calling yourself doctor is a handy shortcut.
Shortcut to cult leader, apparently.
Hubbard claimed heroics in the Navy during World War II, medals, combat glory, the works.
Actual Navy records? Meh, mostly desk work, a few minor incidents, and, let's say, problem officer vibes. Not exactly the heroic image he was selling.
But hey, storytelling is everything, especially when you want people to believe your system can save souls.
Okay, this one's the jaw dropper. Hubbard said he was physically crippled and blind, but cured himself entirely using Dianetics.
Which is incredible if it were true. But there is zero evidence, nada. Yet this story became the cornerstone miracle claim for his system.
Imagine walking into your first auditioning session thinking, well, if he cured blindness, he can probably handle my fear of public speaking.
Classic marketing. Hubbard spun tales of wandering the globe, facing hostile tribes, narrowly escaping death. Basically a Pulp Fiction hero in real life.
Again, some kernels of truth, but mostly exaggeration meets full blown fantasy.
And the goal? Build the aura of someone who's been everywhere, done everything, and therefore has secret knowledge only he can teach.
Hubbard claimed to be a spy, covert ops, sabotage missions, international espionage.
Though he did serve briefly in the Navy, which he clearly twisted into master secret agent territory.
Makes sense if your hobby is starting religions. Why not sprinkle in a few CIA missions for credibility?
And finally, the piece de resistance. Hubbard promoted himself as the ultimate authority on psychology, spirituality, and metaphysics, better than any scientist or theologian.
Essentially, he's like if Google, Wikipedia, and a motivational speaker had a baby, and that baby demanded you sign a billion-year contract.
Which, spoiler, he eventually did, but we'll get there.
So, if you're keeping track, we have fake degrees, fake war medals, miraculous healing, globe-trotting adventures, spy missions, and ultimate omniscience.
All lies. All told with such confidence that people bought it in. And that is the foundation of Scientology.
It's like building a religion on a stack of tall tales, but somehow it worked.
And it all started before he even invented auditing or the bridge to total freedom.
Which is perfect because next up we go occult Hollywood, revive the Parsons connection, and how sex magic rituals somehow led to the birth of $1 billion religion.
Things are about to get weirder because now we're entering occult Hollywood, where rockets beat sex magic.
Wait, rockets meet sex magic? I feel like I walked into a weird indie film that no one warned me about.
This is real, as we explored last week. But if you are new here, let's start with Jack Parsons, a brilliant rocket scientist and dedicated follower of Aleister Crowley. Think physicist by day, ritual magician by night.
A guy building rockets for the future of humanity while simultaneously chanting spells to summon goddesses.
Exactly. And Hubbard just showed up.
Wait, he just showed up? Not exactly subtle.
Oh, he was subtle in his own way. He moved in, flirted with Parsons' girlfriend Sarah Northup, and, well, stole a bunch of Parsons' money for his own sci-fi and occasionally religion dreams.
So, to recap, Hubbard walks in, steals a girlfriend, steals cash, and somehow convinces people he's a mystical guru. Smooth.
That's our guy. But here's where it gets really interesting. Parsons and Hubbard participated in what's called the Babylon Working.
Which sounds like a Halloween-themed productivity seminar.
Oh, far worse. It was a series of sex magic rituals designed to summon a divine feminine entity into the world. They believe it would usher in a new age of spiritual and magical power.
And Hubbard was in on this, doing sex magic with a rocket scientist.
Oh, yes. According to Parsons' journals and Crowley's records, Hubbard was actively participating, or at least claiming it was. He later took what he learned there, rituals, meditation, mental control techniques, and repackaged it into Dianetics and Scientology.
So, auditioning and clearing engrams. Basically, ritualized mind magic.
That's the theory. The idea of removing engrams, of guiding people's spiritual selves, mirrors occult purification rituals, even the immortal Tithan, Crowley-esque cosmic soul.
So, Hubbard wasn't just making up aliens in weird levels, he was rebranding ceremonial magic as self help therapy.
Bingo. And let's be clear, most podcasts never touch this. They jump straight into Xenu and think aliens equal weird enough. But this is all occult underbelly meets rocket science meets con artistry.
And it all starts with a guy who stole a girlfriend and a pile of cash. Classic Hubbard logic.
And this is why when Dianetics said in 1950, he already had a psychological toolkit, a cultish mindset, and a flair for dramatic storytelling.
So, Dianetics didn't appear out of thin air. It emerged from sex magic rituals and rocket labs.
And it worked. People were intrigued, celebrities were intrigued, Hollywood was intrigued.
Because if you can survive Babylon working rituals with a rocket scientist, surely a little audition sessions can't be that bad.
That's exactly the kind of logic Hubbard relied on. Appeal to the weird, sprinkle in authority, and voila, a religion is born.
And the rest, as they say, is alien overlords, secret levels, and billion-dollar real estate.
Precisely. Okay, we've talked about Hubbard's wildlife, but we need to break down Dianetics, because otherwise listeners are just like, wait, so this is therapy or aliens or what?
Right, so Dianetics is basically Hubbard's self-help science of the mind that he wrote about in 1950.
Science of the mind sounds official, doesn't it? Like he had a lab coat and a clipboard.
Except the lab was a typewriter and the clipboard was a pulp fiction imagination.
So the core idea is engrams, basically traumatic memories stored in the subconscious that cause physical and mental problems.
And his solution? Auditing sessions. You sit in a room, talk about your traumas, while an e-meter, basically a weird lie detector, measures your skin response.
And the claim is by talking through these engrams, you can clear yourself and become a clear, superhuman, perfectly rational, emotionally stable, basically like a walking, talking, slightly smug superhero.
Ah, yes, the clear, able to function in society without, you know, pesky human flaws.
And of course, Hubbard charges thousands of dollars per section. Nothing says self improvement like bankruptcy with spiritual enlightenment on a side.
So let me get this straight. Pay money, talk about bad memories, get hooked up to a meter, and become a superhuman. That's Dianetics in a nutshell.
Pretty much, but here's the kicker it doesn't work scientifically. Studies show zero evidence that clearing engrams has had any measurable benefit.
So scientifically, total pseudoscience. Practically, some people feel better, probably because talking about problem is, normal human behavior.
But Hubbard sold it as the foundation of a new science of mind, which eventually evolved into Scientology, complete with cosmic patterns, past lives, and yes, Xenu.
So Dianetics is basically the gateway drug to intergalactic alien religion.
Perfectly put. And now you understand why the guy who stole a girlfriend and some cash could convince thousands to sit in a room, talk to a meter, and pay thousands for imaginary superpowers.
And that, listeners, is why Dianetics is simultaneously brilliant, ridiculous, and terrifying.
So remember, talk about your trauma. Maybe don't pay 5,000 to do it with a meter in a bunker.
Unless you're signing up for a billion-year contract, then by all means, go ahead. And now is where we go from sex magic and rocket labs to billion-dollar religions and alien overlords.
It all starts in 1950 with Hubbard's publication of Dianetics, the modern science of mental health.
The book that claimed you could clear your mind of trauma and become a superhero version of yourself without, actual therapy.
Or prescription, or facts. but it sounded convincing and people ate it up.
And the auditing, that's basically guided meditation for $500 an hour, but with a fancy e-meter to make you feel like a psychic polygraph.
No, really, this needle is detecting your soul, and suddenly you're a $500 clearer Teton.
Which is ironic, considering Hubbard himself probably wasn't cleared of anything, except maybe his obsession with lying.
Fair, but then Hubbard took it to the next level. Enter Sea Org.
Oh yes, the cult Navy. Billion-year contracts, naval uniforms, ships named Apollo. This was L. Ron Hubbard's attempt at cosmic cosplay meets corporate hierarchy.
Basically, sign a $1 billion-a-year contract and live in a floating commune. Sleep deprivation optional but encouraged.
And somehow people bought in, including Hollywood celebrities, because nothing screams spiritual enlightenment like wearing a naval hat and working 16-hour days.
Which brings us to the Xenu story, the part that gets most podcast clicks but rarely contest.
Hubbard claimed an intergalactic dictator named Xanu stacked billions of alien souls around volcanoes, blew them up with hydrogen bombs, and now those spirits haunt humans as body titans.
And here's the kicker, he framed this as secret, advanced knowledge only for higher level members.
So, essentially, you have to pay us thousands to learn about the aliens literally buried in your cells.
And people did. Millions. Because Hubbard had created a system that blended occult ritual, psychology, and science fiction into a persuasive narrative.
And this is how a pulp sci-fi writer becomes a religious mogul with billion-dollar real estate, celebrities, and secret vaults.
All before most of the world had even heard of auditing.
And the Sea Org, still running today. Members live on a base, work insane hours, and wear naval uniforms, literally reacting Hubbard's fantasy naval.
Billion-year contracts included, because why settle for a 40-year retirement plan when you can sign in for eternity?
Honestly, I'm impressed with the marketing. The man turned magic, made up history, sci-fi fiction into a multi-million-dollar empire.
And that's why we're here, because what started as a stolen girlfriend, a couple of pulp novels, and a few occult rituals became one of the most controversial religions movements in the 20th century.
And yet somehow Hubbard avoided real scrutiny for decades, while his ideas spread like wildfire.
And we're going to dig into the controversies, secret prisons, government raids, and conspiracy theories that make Scientology feel more like a thriller novel than a religion.
Oh yes, I'm ready. The weird, dark rabbit hole awaits.
Let's go. Mindzilla listeners, if you thought Xeno was wild, congratulations. We are now entering the truly bizarre real-life conspiracies of Scientology.
AKA everything most podcasts skip because it's too messy or might get us sued.
But not us. We're diving in. Let's start with Operation Snow White, a massive scandal that makes Watergate look like a bake sale.
I love when you say that. Makes me feel better about my life choices.
In the 1970s, Scientology's Guardian's office orchestrated a massive infiltration of the US government. They were basically sealing documents, planting spies, and trying to protect Hubbard's secrets.
And it worked until the FBI raided their offices in 1977, the largest infiltration of the US government ever. 11 officials went to jail. Hubbard himself, an indicted co-conspirator.
Right, because why go to jail when you can just hide? Classic Hubbard.
And then there's the Anderson Report Down Under.
Oh, yes. In the 1960s, the Australian government investigated Scientology and called Hubbard a charlatan. They labeled the church dangerous to public health and even banned it in some states.
Banned, and yet somehow the church survived. Seems Hubbard had a knack for turning controversy into marketing.
Or maybe just threatening anyone who disagreed with them. Here's where it gets stranger than fiction. Underground vaults in New Mexico and California, built to store Hubbard's writings for, wait for it, 10,000 years.
Because obviously the post-apocalyptic future civilizations will want to read Dianetics. And to help them, giant desert symbols were carved into the ground so reincarnated Scientologists could find them.
Visible from satellite imagery. Literal alien style crop circle vibes.
And people say Xanu is not real.
Oh, and then there is the hole.
Please tell me this isn't a metaphor.
No metaphor. At Gold Base, California, former executives say Hubbard had a secret prison for punishing high ranking members.
Punishments included forced confessions, isolation, and humiliation.
Sounds like a really sadistic summer camp, but it was real, and multiple insiders corroborated it. 1995, Lisa McPherson, a Scientologist, in a minor car accident.
And then things go downhill fast.
Instead of getting medical care, she is isolated by the church in Fort Harrison's hotel under the so-called introspection rundown. 17 days later, she dies.
Cause of death officially a blood clot. Critics, severe dehydration, weight loss, insect bites, basically neglect.
And the church settled a wrongful death lawsuit quietly. Mystery still remains.
Meanwhile, current church leader David Miscavige's wife, Shelley Miscavige, has not been publicly seen since 2007.
Some say she is under house arrest in a Scientology compound. The church claims she is living privately.
Classic private life or secret prison? You decide.
Then there is the IRS saga. For decades, Scientology wasn't tax exempt.
Then, in 1993, after thousands of lawsuits and intimidation tactics, the IRS reversed course.
Some say it was a church litigation blitz. Others whisper undisclosed deals behind the scenes. Either way, Hubbard's empire was officially legitimized. And finally, the intelligence angle. Hubbard had the Guardian's Office intelligence network.
They spied, infiltrated, and tracked critics. Some claim Hubbard's work had connections to real intelligence operations, though nothing is fully proven.
Still, the fact that a sci-fi writer built a spy network inside a religion, that's impressive in a terrifying way. So, if you're keeping track, we've got massive government infiltration, secret punishment prisons, underground vaults for 10,000 years, death under mysterious church care, disappearance of high-ranking members, IRS manipulation, and alleged spy networks.
Basically, the perfect recipe for a real-life conspiracy thriller.
And next, we'll ask the big question. Is Scientology a religion, a cult, or just the world's most elaborate con?
Oh, I can't wait to argue this one.
Then buckle up. If you survived so far, congratulations. You now know more about Scientology than most government officials, and probably your neighbors.
Or at least enough to make every family gathering awkward. So, what do you really think about Xanu, Uncle Bob?
Now comes the big question. Is Scientology a religion, a cult, or cosmic con? On one hand, Scientology calls itself a religion. It has ceremonies, a spiritual hierarchy, and yes, even Sunday services.
On the other hand, it has Sea Org, billion-year contracts, secret prisons, spying operations, and punishment camps. Sounds less church and more space age military dystopia.
And let's not forget auditing. Pay thousands to talk to a needle on a meter about your body titans. Not exactly a traditional sermon.
So, cult, check. Religion, debatable. Elaborate sci fi espionage network, absolutely.
And that's the genius of Hubbard. He blurred the lines so well, critics, members, and governments all argue over definitions. Meanwhile, the money keeps flowing. Now, here's what most podcasts don't talk about: Sea Org billion year contracts. The ultimate loyal test. You're signing up for eternity. Literal eternity. Imagine HR telling you, yeah, your next review is in 990,099 years. Occult roots. Hubbard didn't just invent auditing, he borrowed sex magic, Crowley's rituals, and mystical philosophy and turned them into the bridge to total freedom. Basically ceremonial magic, but with spreadsheets. CIA infiltration rumors. Hubbard had a background in Navy intelligence and allegedly maintained spy like operations within Scientology. Some say he leveraged this to evade scrutiny or manipulate governments. And then we have the Apocalypse Vaults, secret bunkers holding Hubbard writings for 10,000 years, with desert symbols pointing the way for future generations. Space archaeologists will thank him, or wonder if aliens left a Yelp review.
And all of this started because he borrowed a girlfriend and some cash from Jack Parsons. Truly a humble beginning.
So here's our verdict, Mindzilla style. Hubbard was a master storyteller, a con artist, and a magician. He created a religion that's part occult, part sci-fi, part spy thriller, and yes, part cult.
But also, to be fair, he convinced Hollywood celebrities, governments, and millions of followers that it was legit. That takes skill.
Absolutely. He weaponized charisma, mystery, and absurdity, and in doing so, he built one of the most infamous movements in the 20th century.
So, what's the takeaway here?
That the man who stole a girlfriend, pretended to be a war hero, and rewrote reality somehow convinced people to pay for alien therapy, live on ships, and sign billion-year contracts.
We thought our neighbour's pyramid shaped compost bin was weird.
Hubbard's life is a cautionary tale, a conspiracy, and a comedy all rolled into one.
And somehow it's still ongoing. Secret vaults, missing wives, space titans. The saga continues.
So if you thought your Monday was stressful, just remember, somewhere in the California desert, someone is still signing a billion-year contract to talk to a meter about Xenu.
Cheers to that.
And that's a wrap on today's Mindzilla deep dive into Hubbard, Scientology, and everything in between.
From stolen girlfriends and occult rituals to billion-year contracts and desert alien symbols, Hollywood weirdness at its finest.
But next week, we are leaving the palm trees and mansions behind.
And heading somewhere that makes the desert look tropical.
Yep, we are going to freeze our asses off in Antarctica, diving into conspiracies, research stations, and maybe a rogue penguin cult or two.
Nothing says true conspiracies like sub-zero temperatures and endless ice.
So buckle up, listeners. Next week, Mindzilla goes polar crazy.
Until then, keep your tinfoil hats tight and your brain wide open.
And remember, the truth is out there, somewhere between a rocket scientist's rituals and a sci-fi writer's ego.
Bye.
Bye!